Thank you. How are we doing? Okay. Got
So,
it.
so we're on YouTube now too?
Just about. Here we go. Time to hit record. Admit everybody in. Give it a few minutes. Okay, 7 o'clock. The floor is yours, Stephen.
All right, thank you very much. And this is the opening. We're going to call the March 4th, 2024 board meeting of the Oregon Country Fair to order. And I'd like to remind everyone, if you're not on the board or one of the officers, to turn your video off, please. And we will begin with announcements. Are there any announcements? Go ahead, Teresa, and otherwise raise your hand in chat.
Yeah, I was looking for the chat there. I just wanted to announce from the bylaw election committee that we are submitting everything to lawyers right now, and we'll be ready for the March 18th work meeting for the proposed bylaw changes.
Thank you. And AJ.
Sorry for the three hands. I'm trying to figure out new system here. On February 29th, the board met in closed session and no votes were taken.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements? If you have an announcement, please raise your hand in chat. Last call for announcements. All right, seeing none, we will move on to approval of the January 29th and February 5th, 2024 minutes. Is there any objection to approving these minutes? Go ahead, Grumpy.
Can you hear me? I don't know
Yeah.
if you can see me.
Is this pertaining to minutes?
It absolutely is. On the February, 5th meeting, the teddy bear picnic is listed. I'm not sure what page. I have page 20 from the Fair Family News. The teddy bear picnic is listed as Sunday, August 28th, 2024. The teddy bear picnic is not on August 28th, and because it's not a Sunday, it's actually on August 18th. So you should amend the minutes.
Is there any, can we confirm that information, Kirsten? And then, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. It is a typo. So
Okay.
it is Sunday, August 18th is the teddy bear picnic. Good catch, Grumpy. Thank you.
Is there any objection to that correction? Hearing none, the minutes for February 5th, 2024 will have the date of the teddy bear picnic corrected to August 18th. And is there any objection to adopting the minutes as amended? Last call for objection. Hearing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent with February 5th minutes being amended. And we're going to go to agenda review. Is there any discussion on agenda review? Sandra?
Yes, I would like to move capital improvements project from new to old business and to place it in the first position on the agenda. Although capital improvements in the are normally done at this time of the month, we neglected to list it last month as new business so that it would be old business tonight. And and it is time sensitive. So I urge you to agree.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who was that?
I seconded it. I don't know if somebody else did too.
Okay, Arnis, moved by Sandra Bauer and seconded by Arna. And is there any discussion on moving this from new to old and putting it in the first position? Member input? Any board input? Last call? Hearing none, the agenda is amended by unanimous consent. Capital improvements will be the first item of old business. Do we have any membership comments? This is a time for any members who want to use their speaking time to address something not on tonight's agenda. Is there any member who wishes to speak to something not on the agenda? Last call. Seeing none, we'll move on to staff reports, the executive director's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for your time this evening. To get started, as we just mentioned, the 2024 capital improvement requests have been reviewed by the Budget Committee, and they are on the agenda to be voted on at tonight's meeting. We are working on the Amplified Sound Task Force. We are looking for 10 to 15 volunteers for this task force. We will be running a message in the March FFN to recruit volunteers. Deadline to submit letter of interest is March 31st. If you are interested in participating, please email your letter to office@OregonCountryFair.org. Our first meeting will occur in April of 24. Guidelines, we have moved our dates for guideline revision. We are going to move our dates for guideline revisions in 2025 to October 1st through November 15th in order to give the board January and February to deliberate and vote on guideline policy changes without delaying the printing of the guidelines. As a reminder, committee annual reports are due by March 15th, 2024. Please email them to office@OregonCountryFair.org. The reports will be given to the board in the April board packet or alongside the April board packet. Under event management, we are actively working on contracts. I do have some good news for LTD. They think that they have a way to provide service for us, but we don't have it finalized yet, but that's moving along. The Ritz Sauna contract is in the board packet tonight for approval of the potential conflict of interest. AT&T Cow, we still have not made any significant progress with them. We are working on other ways to convince them to bring a cow, but Verizon is definitely bringing a tower and T-Mobile is definitely bringing a tower. For 2022 permits, we are done with all of our campground permits. We are done with our outdoor assembly permit, and we are done with our Lane County right-of-way permit, and they will all be turned in early next week. The Spring Fling is set for Saturday, May 4th, 2024 at the Wow Hall. Main Camp will open on Saturday, June 8th, 2024 this year. The Teddy Bear Picnic is Sunday, August 18th this year. And Culture Jam, as a reminder, is moving forward one day, and their new dates are Thursday, August 1st through Thursday, August 8th. The fair is receiving a donation of 360 alder saplings. We are holding a work party on Saturday, March 23rd to get them into 2-gallon pots. If you are interested in participating, please sign up through our work party sign-up form on the .net site. A new water pump was installed at the winery. The old water pump was the original pump from the 1970s. Lots of tree work is being done on the site due to storm damage and structure protection. Doug's Greens improvements continue. A server is being installed to handle backups from the Eugene office, so we have redundancy of data storage. The West Wing conference room should be finished just before this year's event, and flooring and painting will be done before this year's event as well. Marketing, here's the fun stuff. The 2024 3-day tickets go on sale on March 15th. We've already begun a marketing campaign to get the word out that the tickets are going on sale on Friday, March 15th. General admission early bird tickets will go on sale Monday, April 1st through June 15th. General admission regular price tickets will go on sale June 16th through the events. Tickets will be able to be purchased at the Eugene office starting on Monday, April 1st. Tickets will be sold on Mondays and Tuesdays only of each week from 12 noon to 4 p.m. The last day to purchase tickets through the Eugene office will be Tuesday, June 25th. The guidelines are getting ready to go to the printer. We have the color digital copy on the .net site now. We do expect them out of the printers by the end of March. Vehicle stickers are in the work. Food vouchers have been ordered. VIP passes have already been ordered. Worker day passes are currently being printed, and wristbands are in the process of being ordered. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Kirsten. And before we go to the treasurer's report, a housekeeping piece, something that we were aware of before the meeting opened and not after, that Arna chatted about. So John Alexander is paying attention to the meeting remotely and through Arna, who is going to be relaying for him. So if something comes from John Alexander later in the meeting, everyone should know he is attending here. Thank you very much. We'll go to the treasurer's report now. Hillary.
Okay, I'll wait to talk about the capital projects under that item. For my report, I will thank the budget committee and the staff we're approaching the end of the budget season. We've been meeting since fall. The committee had tremendous support from staff, handling the admin, collecting the papers, managing the website with the data, and doing some initial communication with crews and beating the bush to get the paperwork. So really want to thank everybody. It's been a lot of meetings. We had 3 meetings just last month to do the capital projects. And it's always a little bit sad and a little bit satisfying to reach this time of year when we finish a large amount of work. So thank you so much. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is that I have gotten a copy of the 2023 books to finalize before we hand it off to the outside accountants for the 990 preparation and the financial statement review. And I just wanted to give big props to Norma, Kirsten, and Alex. This is the cleanest set of books I have ever gotten from FAIR staff. The number of adjustments are way down. The number of issues that just really pop out at me. So what I'm able to do is pretty much just some pretty clean work in changing the formatting into the format that goes to the accountant. So just want to give them big props. Good job, you guys. That's it.
Sometimes I push this button and it doesn't tick. So thank you, Hillary. And are there any other committee or work group reports before we move on? Last call. They should be in writing.
Steve,
Sue.
sorry, I couldn't get the hand quick enough. Anyway, it is my joy to serve on the Bill Wooten Endowment Fund. This year, we had $20,000 to give to the local communities. So we were able to, for the first time, I think, in a long time, fully fund the following project requests. Culture Jam for scholarships. Elmira Elementary School for their Shake a Leg dance project involving kindergarten through 5th grade students. Lane Arts Council for a collaboration with Fern Ridge Public Library featuring 3 free workshops focusing on the intersection of science and art. The Rural Arts Center will have a multicultural art instruction for elementary students for their shortened school days. Older students will be able to be involved in the ukulele club. Start Making a Reader Today, SMART, will be supporting students at Elmira and Veneta Elementary School to help the students develop a love of reading. Veneta Elementary School for learning how to make wire sculptures and working with basic color theory. And Word Crafters, a collaboration with Elmira High School, providing an arts residency focusing on creative writing and spoken word performance. And finally, the Leslie Scott Imagination Grant Award goes to Elmira Elementary School. I want to thank everyone. We are a philanthropic organization, and to be able to give $20,000 to the local community to help the youth in those local communities, it's a world of good. That's all.
Thank you, Sue. Stephen
Oh,
Dyerkoff.
You
Oh,
can
wait.
read more about this in the February issue of Fair Family News. And Stephen, I will have this to you for the minutes. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Stephen Dyerkoff. Is he here? Raise his hand. Did he drop out? Nope, he's here. Okay, it looks like Stephen's frozen. We're going to go on to new business, and if he has a report to give, he can give that when he gets back. Moving on to new business, entertain a motion for the capital improvement projects. Who's doing that?
I am.
Go ahead.
The board moves to approve the 2024 capital improvements request as submitted by the Budget Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I second.
Did I get John Steinhardt first on that?
Yes.
Yeah. So moved by George Braddock and seconded by John Steinhardt. Is there any discussion on the capital improvement project? Hillary?
Yeah, I put my hand up to be able to just do some introduction. The board should have gotten the list of recommended projects and the minutes right after we finished our last meeting. So I hope you've had a chance in the last couple of weeks to look it over. The process that the committee went through was after the staff had collected the information and assessed them and with their recommendation and given some notes. The committee started meeting, read all the proposals, discussed proposals. We had some phone calls. We brought staff in and grilled staff about some of the projects. And then we also did a ranking, and the committee's ranking, the ranking the staff did was a little bit stricter than the committee's ranking. The committee's ranking was looking at the carry forwards and looking at things that were health and safety and were a very high priority. And then next was a middle priority. And third was let's delay this or not try to get to it this year. We had about $300,000 worth of requests, and we did pare that down. It could be that if we had a really fantastic year, what we're calling our operating capital projects could be funded out of current revenue, or it could be that we're dipping into some of what's in the bank. You know, just depends on how this year goes. We can't really tell. When you look at the projects, there's a few different classifications. The beginning of the list shows the carry forward projects, and there's not a subtotal on those, but if you look at where it says carry forward, you can see it's the first 6 projects, and those are projects that we had funded prior years and we had vetted and they weren't completed. So we discussed it with the people who were sponsoring them, and they still intend to finish them. So those were carry forwards. The next set are the things that ended up as, these were mostly 1s and 2s. And among these, the committee looked at them and considered what, you know, is this duplicating anywhere? Is this the right amount? And there's a few modifications for things like the permitting crew and staff is hoping to delay new permitting projects, for example, like doing lofts. So we had a few adjustments to some of the projects. The construction crew had put in overall amount with a list of some of the projects they wanted to work on, and the crews that were involved with some of those projects put in separate lists. So we took out the construction amount and left in the crew lists so that the crews will be able to interface with construction as kind of construction client relationship, which is pretty common to do, but those will be under the umbrella of construction, but the crew is still involved. So we thinned those out. And then we looked at which of these projects should be long-term, and you'll see the long-term projects. There's one carry forward of the recycling project. There is working on the winery house, that insurance money we got to replace the burnt house. This is in addition to that, to put a slab foundation underneath. And then we talked a lot in the meetings, and staff is really interested in taking a big picture of our infrastructure. And the water crew put in a very large project, and what we want to do, this is a little bit less, this is getting it started. But there's a lot of interest in looking at all of our infrastructure, our water, our power needs, our communication needs, and trying to stop being so siloed with it. When crews are the ones supporting a particular project, they haven't always done all the work with the other affected crews. And I think staff is in a really good position to help us get some synergy between these infrastructure projects that, sometimes they have trenching needs that are in common. Sometimes there's, other ways that they, with power needs especially, we don't need a whole bunch of duplicate systems, like we need to make some synergy. So this water project is to get started, but keep in mind that we are really behind with a lot of our maintenance and a lot of our improvements for things like infrastructure. And I think we will be hearing more and more from staff of trying to get coordination going on making those projects being done more efficiently and in cooperation with one another. And then the last category of projects is one that we already have the funding for. And that would be the winery house replacement, which we have the insurance money for that. And then KOCF fundraises, they have an agreement with the fair and with management that the fundraising that they do is for their equipment needs. So they put in a capital project because they still need to, be part of the budget process to be able to access it. But this is basically coming out of money that's in the bank that they had fundraised. So that's in a separate category. So if you look at that total you can see it under the total from 2024 operating income, 148,000. That's what we're proposing as the current year capital projects out of current year money. And that includes the 30-something, almost 40,000 that was a carry forward amounts that we didn't finish. And then these 5-year capital projects, they may not all be done this year. They will carry forward. This is the process that we started right before COVID of putting these longer projects that might have permitting issues, need a staff liaison, and that need to get carried forward because they might not all get done in 1 year. That's what these will be. And they will not be in the body of the profit and loss as you're used to seeing, but down under other expenses. So they'll be in a totally different category. So we'll isolate our operating income from these larger infrastructure projects. But these are all the recommended ones. There was probably about 10 or 15 that we deferred, just thinking that they might need some more work. And so it's higher than I was hoping for going into it. But when you look at them, I think they're all valuable projects, and I hope you'll support them. And I or the committee, let me just point out a couple of things on them. Sorry to keep going on. The porta potty purchase, Alexis recommended this as potentially a multi-phase project. The first phase of it, there's a really compelling argument for. We would buy, I forget if it's about 17 or 18 porta potties, and these porta potties we would store, they would still be serviced. We would move them around. We would use them for Culture Jam. We would use them for the picnic. We would use them for main camp. We would avoid the $85 per unit per month drop fee. And at that, they should last over 10 years if we keep them out of the sun and take care of them. And they would pay for themselves at this rate in about 4 years. So to me, this project, especially the first phase, it was a really compelling, even though it's a large expenditure, it's a really compelling, project, I thought. And the site vehicle, that is to get a roadworthy vehicle. We we definitely have a problem with keeping vehicles maintained, and we do need a vehicle that can be roadworthy and be licensed to go on the road. There's a few of these that can, that staff will put off until after the fair. So like some of the deferred maintenance ones and some of the ones that aren't as time sensitive. So be aware of that too, that in the budget committee, we often say, well, what about if we wait and see what kind of fare we have on that one? We threw all those in and are going to let staff make their judgment of, after the fair, did it look like we had a good enough fare to go ahead and do them? Okay, so that's it for me. And questions for me or the committee or staff?
Well, let's do a member input first. Is there any member input on the capital improvement project? Last call for member input. Oh, Heather Kent.
There were no numbers given for the porta potties, and I assume that this due diligence has been done. But just in case, make sure you absolutely know what you're going to be charged for pump outs for those toilets. I started at $17 and it's up to $50. So just make sure that you know how much you're going to save in terms of owning them when you still have to have them pumped out, which I imagine you've probably done.
Thank you, Heather. Any other member input before we move to board discussion? Last call. Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion on the capital improvements? Last call for board discussion. Paxton?
There's names in the chat box, Stephen.
All I see is Paxton now. Are you saying there are other names?
No, I thought we were on board. I'm sorry, Stephen.
No, okay.
I have normally in motions like this, we put the total that we're approving in the motion, and I'm a little confused. So I'd like to, get the total that we're approving into the motion. Thank you.
That doesn't change the meaning of the motion. Is there, let's see, this was made by George. Are you okay with putting the total? Is there any problem with that, Hillary, first?
No, I can help with that.
Okay, is there any problem with putting the total in the motion?
No. I would like to do it as three numbers though, for the three main sections. So the capital projects that we're calling from operating income is 148,716. The ones that will be considered long-term are 80,000. And then to be paid for out of restricted funds is 158,586. And I can write that in the chat if that would help you, Anna.
And George, do you have any objection to adding that to the motion?
I do not.
And John Steinhardt?
Nope, it's fine.
Okay, motion is amended by, it's a valid friendly amendment. Is there any more discussion on the capital improvement projects? The capital improvement budget? The capital improvement projects, I'm looking at which term to use. Last call, seeing none, we'll go to a vote. There's been no objection. Is there any objection to adopting the capital improvement project as amended? Last call, is there any objection? Seeing none, the capital improvement project is adopted by unanimous consent. And we're going to take a moment and go back to reports for Stephen Dyerkoff, who managed to get back.
Hi there. I'm sorry, Zoom and I have not been good friends lately, apparently. The Ad hoc Joint Elections Bylaws Committee has a mandate to deliver a report to the board in March, and the person that was going to deliver the report is not here. So I thought I would just briefly give a report on that. The committee met 2 times. We have drafted 5 proposed bylaw changes regarding elections. A month ago, we posted all of those changes lumped together as a bylaw change on the .NET site. That is still there. This month, we separated them out into 5 separate proposed motions. The language is almost identical. They're just separated out by motion. There's one substantive change to what's on the .NET site right now, and that has to do with the beginning of the terms of office of directors. We now have 2 options: to maintain the status quo and have the term of office begin at the first board meeting after the election, and the other option is to have the term of office begin upon certification of the election after the vote is counted. We have all these new documents at our attorneys right now. They should be returned hopefully this week, and they will be posted on the .NET site as soon as they are returned from the attorney. On March 18th, we will have a board work session where we will take questions and discuss all of these proposed changes, the reasons we need to make the changes, and why we're proposing the ones we do. So I encourage anybody who's interested to attend the board work session on the 18th. We hope to have these motions presented to the board so that they can go on as new business in April and be voted on in May. And like I said, everything will be posted on the .NET site well ahead of time, so you can reference the .NET site for that information. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will return to old business, and the next motion is potential conflict of interest in the 2024 Ritz Sauna contract. Listed with Kevin Levy.
Yes.
You want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, move to approve the 2024 Ritz Sauna contract, potential conflict of interest.
Okay, so is to clarify, this is approving the contract, and there simply is a potential conflict of interest, correct?
Yes.
So let's, so this is the approval of the 2024 Ritz Sauna contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Kevin Levy and seconded by John Steinhardt, correct? And do you have a conflict of interest, George, to declare?
I do. I am the owner of the Ritz Sauna and an active member of the board.
Are you going to be participating in this vote or recusing yourself?
I will recuse myself.
Thank you. Okay, with that, is there any discussion on the contract from the membership? Do any members have input on the contract motion? Danny?
Sorry, trying to turn on my video for just a second there. I just want to say, please vote yes to approve the contract with the Ritz. They do a lot of great work in the off season for the fair, including for staff, showers. It's a great resource for everyone. And I would urge you to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other member input? Raise your hand in chat. Last call for member input. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion on this 2024 Ritz Sauna contract? Lisa Parker. Is this the bad internet? Are you able to get through? There you are.
It's me trying to find my mute button on my unfamiliar tablet. So I just want to say that the reason that the board has to vote on this is that according to the bylaws, if there is a potential conflict of interest, the board must do our due diligence to read through the contract and make sure that it is fair to the fair. And I have done that, and I think that the contract is fair to the fair.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Is there any further board discussion on the 2024 Ritz Sauna contract? Last call for discussion on the 2024 Ritz Sauna contract? Okay, seeing none and having no one to speak against it, is there any objection to approving the 2024 Ritz Sauna contract? Last call for any objection to approving the 2024 Ritz sauna contract. Okay, seeing none, the Ritz sauna contract is approved by unanimous consent with George Braddock recusing himself.
Thank you.
And the next motion is open committee meeting recordings. Who's making that motion?
I am. So I want to make it and then do a short statement, and then Arna wants to make one after me, and then open for discussion.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The board moves to allow all open committee meeting recordings to be seen by the fair community. This policy will start 1 month after its passage by the board and will apply to future meetings. Committees that have no closed sections of meetings may vote to make their prior meetings public. No closed meetings may be made public. The mechanism for accessing the recordings will be developed by operations and explained to the board and the fair community next month. And then I wanted to just include in here that we've had a review on the recorded meetings from our attorney, which was relayed to the board previously. And in regards to committee recordings, according to the attorney, we own the recordings and can do with them as we please. Since Zoom informs everyone prior to admittance that the meeting is being recorded, we have met our legal requirement of informing participants that they are being recorded. Meetings that are solely in person are similar in that if we record it, the participants must agree to it in writing, i.e. sign a waiver acknowledging they are being recorded. And there are no other further legal obligations to recorded meetings. And as for the implementation, we have spoken to Kirsten about managing the open committee meeting recordings, and the staff will be prepared to implement the policy should it be approved. This is no different from other policies of the board that are approved. Implementation depends on the policy, and implementation is rarely, if ever, finalized in advance of an approved policy. So Arna had some comments to make as well.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to give all my comments about this policy right now. I'll wait till we have more discussion. But I did want to remind the board and the membership that when the boards first started recording the board meetings, there was a lot of controversy about it. People really didn't, some people really didn't want to happen. They felt the sky was falling and it would just be a disaster. Well, we've been recording our meetings now for years, and the sky hasn't fallen on us. It's worked really well. It's allowed a lot of people to watch our meetings who couldn't watch them live. And I feel like that's really what's sort of going on with this too. It will allow a lot of our community to watch committee meetings that they would not be able to see otherwise. And I think that's good. And I'll give more of my reasoning later as we open up the discussion to everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Arna. And so any member input on this motion? If you have member input, please raise your hand in chat. I see hang on, David W. first.
Hello. Good evening to everybody.
Oh, hold on just a second. Arna, are you seconding the motion?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Okay, let's complete the formalities. Thank you. So moved by Sandra and seconded by Arna. Go ahead, David.
Thank you. So my name's Dave Wagenheim. I'm a food vendor at the fair. I'm also on the food committee. And I've thought about this in the past. I think it's come up in previous years. As a committee member, I look at this motion in a favorable view, just because it seems to increase transparency in our processes, which has some benefits that I think would benefit the fair. Currently on the food committee, we're trying to recruit new members to our group, and we're all volunteers. It's a lot of work. So we want good, effective members to join us. And it seems like any opportunity for people, fair family, to kind of investigate what's this all about? How does this work? You know, what's this group doing? How do they make decisions? Is positive. So from like my committee standpoint, I feel like that would be a positive attribute to our work. I think, if not everybody on the committee can make it all the time, so this would offer an opportunity for people to kind of catch up and see what they missed. So I like that aspect of it. Not everybody has the time to attend in person or on Zoom. And then just in general, I think increasing engagement and involvement from Fair Family is a positive thing. Not a lot of people might be familiar with our internal processes, so this is probably one way for them to do that, at their leisure. Again, we're a volunteer organization, and making it easier for volunteers to be involved is a positive thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. And we'll move on to Hall.
Good evening. 1998 was my first fair, so for many of you, I'll always be a newbie. By the time I arrived, the fair was already pretty big, and it was clear that if you wanted to understand how it worked, much less participate, you needed to live in Eugene and attend meetings. But I live 6 hours away. One of the few good things that came out of the pandemic for my money is the realization that video technology makes it possible for folks to participate in a meeting without being in the same physical location. Making meeting recordings available to the membership is an extension of the same things. Now people can really understand what's going on without being in the same place and without being available at the same time. Believe it or not everyone is available in the 6 to 9 time frame. For us, that's family time, and I seldom schedule anything. When my daughter was at home, I wouldn't have even considered it. For folks in a different time zone or with evening jobs, being able to watch a recorded meeting might be the only option. Other uses for the recordings would be someone who wants to get up to speed on an issue before getting involved or before expressing their opinion in writing. People who object to the recordings being available seem to be worried that what people say in meetings may be scrutinized and publicized in an unfavorable light. This seems to me a spurious objection, since these meetings are already public, listed on a public website. Anyone making public statements in a public meeting should be conscious of the idea that what they say could be made available more broadly. If you're not prepared to say what you say to the world, consider sending a letter or making a private phone call. For those who express concerns about statements being taken out of context, I would say that the point of having the recordings available is to provide context, instead of having folks rely on gossip and hearsay. Lastly, I would say that attempts to block the sharing of these recordings convey the sense that OCF and its committees have something to hide, something I don't think should be true. Please vote for this motion to make recordings available so that more people from more places are able to understand and participating in the governing and working of the Oregon Country Fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Hall. And Carolyn Giselle.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I am the scribe for the Elders Committee, and I highly endorse the availability of recordings. Basically, what Dave and Hall already said, I'm not going to repeat that, but I completely in agreement with their sentiments. And the other thing I'd like to add, the wonderful thing about recordings is if you can watch a meeting, a 2-hour meeting in like an hour and a half or even less by putting it on high speed. And that is like a wonderful time saver. So thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Amy Hand, excuse me.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to leave my camera off as I have to read on my phone right now. I'm going to address the board with a letter. I would like to get it into the minutes. We wrote this and sent it to the board of directors. This is from some of the members of Path Planning. This letter summarizes concerns from some members of Path Planning Committee in regards to the proposed motion addressing the public release of all open committee meeting recordings. While we understand the value of transparency and community engagement, it is felt the proposed policy could have unintended consequences that could negatively impact the effectiveness of committees like Path Planning. Concerns raised include reduced candor and participation, making all open meeting recordings available to anyone inside or outside of the fair community could discourage individuals from volunteering on committees due to concerns of public scrutiny or misrepresentation of their opinions expressed during the meeting. This could limit the diversity of voices and perspectives represented in the committee, hindering their ability to effectively fulfill their responsibilities. Control of access of recordings. Open meetings are our current operating procedure with readily available minutes and agendas, knowing that every word after being recorded will be openly available to an undefined community member, including any jurisdiction or media group, could lead to self-censorship and hesitation to explore new ideas or raise critical issues openly. This could ultimately hinder the quality of committee work. It could also place the fair in jeopardy of any number of lawsuits. If the board passes this motion, it would go against the number one responsibility of fiduciary accountability for the organization that they are charged with. Number three, logistical challenges. The proposed policy lacks clarity on logistics, including the method of defining the community impacted and accessing recordings, ensuring the privacy of individuals mentioned, and managing potential storage limitations. Implementing this policy effectively without incurring significant resources and administrative burden requires careful consideration. We urge the board to obtain legal counsel and carefully consider the potential repercussions of this proposal before passing such a motion. Please explore alternative approaches that ensure transparency while safeguarding the effectiveness of committee work. We hope that you discuss this matter further and find a solution that best serves the long-term health, safety, and interests of the fair and our committee volunteers. So I will send that to Mr. Dyerkoff. I would like to add that we have seen what happens when meetings are recorded and someone's facial expressions gets taken out of context and blasted all over the internet. We aren't kind with each other. And I think that we really need to look at that before we open ourselves up to doing it to whoever wants to watch. And that is all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Amy. And we'll go to Heather now. And I've got you on the list, Elaine.
Yeah, or maybe I just have to say this because I know so many of us think it, or people's facial expressions were not taken out of context since they were right there in the meeting with all the words. So that's the beautiful thing, is that you get all the context when you can watch the meeting. The fact that we are even having to have a conversation about this with a motion being needed, no less, really strains credulity. We never should have ended up here where committee meetings weren't public. And if we are really a community, we should have been thinking of this all along as simply a matter of public record for ourselves.
Thank you, Heather. We're going to go to John Govsky.
Oh, thank you. I think core values of an organization like this would, for me, be transparency and integrity. And I think you start from that and then you work backwards. And there are legitimate reasons you would want to have closed sessions of meetings, legal reasons, personnel reasons, other matters that are sensitive, and those are obviously closed session and not public at all. But I just think transparency should be the default setting, and there should be a rationale for making something non-transparent. And, I can see a lot of legitimate reasons to do that, but I think the default should be transparency. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mouseman.
See if you got me here. Okay. Hello. Hey, first of all, I am totally for this this motion and the whole idea. I've been around this fair long enough. I remember when we first wanted to record meetings and there was such pushback. And back then it was basically people didn't want to have it publicly acknowledged that we smoked pot or stupid things like, or say poopy caca shit or something on the recordings. But anyway, this is a fine idea, and it's a long time coming. But I do have a question about clarification. When Arna was talking about meetings that are not recorded and in-person meetings, she used the word if the meetings are recorded. What I'm asking is there a mandate to record meetings now, or is that still an option for in-person meetings? That's what I have to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to Coyote.
Hi, thank you. There I am. Yeah, I think this is a good motion. I think it's a great opportunity for us as a community to learn to trust one another and respect one another. believe in the best in one another, and not get caught in the what could go wrongs, the might go wrongs, not get caught up in a fear-driven consciousness or way of looking at things. I think it gives people in committees an opportunity to think about what they're saying before they say it. Possible consequences of telling somebody in a meeting to shut up. You might think twice before knowing that this is going to be available to the rest of the membership. You might be more conscious about what you're talking about. An opportunity to practice decent behavior to one another, simple kindness to one another, knowing that who you are, what you're saying is possibly going to be viewed by the rest of your community. There was, I heard a concern about candor or something like that, that it may affect candor. Candor is just really being honest. That's what the word candor means, sincerity. So if having open meetings does have an effect that people are more honest or more sincere in their expressions, then that's a positive thing. So I just see this as an opportunity to trust one another, have faith in the innate goodness of each other, and move forward in a positive way. And I appreciate Sandra, Arna, and the other supporters of this to bringing it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coyote. And Elaine.
Hi, I am just wanting to respond to the person who read a letter from Path Planning. And I'm trying to imagine what part of Path Planning, because Path Planning is about movement of the people who are at the fair. It's about shaping flow and interaction. And I am trying to imagine why anybody on Path Planning would object to having a meeting recorded. Because if you're doing the work of community, of building and growing community, that transparency and putting to record and involvement, it seems like that would go hand in hand with that work with that committee. And maybe I'm wrong, but I just find that interpretation to be an opinion. And I really believe that an open meeting and a recorded meeting is not going to prevent people from wanting to speak up and be themselves and participate. I don't think it's going to squash diversity or inclusion. I think what we're aiming for is inclusion and transparency and openness. And I can see nothing more than it being a healing process and something that would bring us all together, and a reflection of how we want to behave when we're on the path. I would just encourage us to kind of remember our personal opinions and then our work as a group and how we put our best selves forward for what we're doing, which is the work of creating community and the experience of building community. And transparency is part of that, and recordings is, like someone else said earlier, it allows more people to be involved. So I encourage us all to vote this in. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. I have LT, Danny, and John Pincus. I want to remind everyone we're in member input. If there are any members here who wish to speak to this motion that haven't spoken, please raise your hand in chat. LT?
Hi, Pura Vida from Costa Rica. I'm going to limit my comment to the question of legal implications because I heard a recitation of the opinion, and it seemed to answer a that was fairly narrow, which is what was the board's proprietary authority over recordings. It didn't seem to answer what I think were a lot of other questions. I have no idea, of course, what questions were asked, what the board's input may have been on the questions that were asked, whether a written opinion directed to those questions was provided to the board, or a summary was provided through some filter. I don't know what the process is at this point, no longer being on the board. But I think there are a number of questions regarding legal liability, distribution, use of recordings that haven't been answered. I do think there are unintended consequences that one ought to be mindful of. I would take issue with the characterization of that mindfulness as fear or fear-based. It's not clear to me, except for one representative of the Elders Committee and a representative speaking on behalf of a number of members of path planning. It's not clear to me in general what the positions of various committees on this idea might be. I think it would be useful to know. I don't know how much research, how much network has been done in terms of getting the opinion of the people who do the work on the committees, though it is my understanding that the folks who have spoken up on behalf of the Path Planning Committee include some of our most dedicated, diligent, experienced, and knowledgeable volunteers. And I think that their concerns bear consideration. And I would urge the board to take those matters into consideration before proceeding to pass this motion. That's
Thank you, LT. And next up is Danny.
Hi, thank you. I'm 100% for this motion, in support of this motion, and mostly around transparency. I believe it's really important for this organization to be transparent and to have the meetings recorded and on record for viewing, so that we can see what's going on. One of the things that it just sparked something that I thought about when Michael Connolly was speaking, assume good intent. And I think that we need to, as an organization, that needs to be, up there in our thoughts, is that we need to assume good intent of each other. And I certainly hope that you all vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. And John Pincus.
Yes, I thoroughly support this motion. I'm a member of Path Planning Committee myself, and I have a different view of the motion than the folks that signed the letter, my colleagues, some of my colleagues on Path Planning. I think that this motion will actually help eliminate a lot of misinterpretations of statements out of context that might occur from a simple reading of the minutes or somebody's retelling of the meeting. If this motion is enacted, then people will be able to see what actually happened in the meeting, which is, I think, great for democratic process. I think the Oregon Country Fair should be a beacon of open democratic governance process. And I think now that we have the technology to do so easily, I think this motion puts us one step further toward that goal. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And this is after Ren. It's the last call for any members that wish to speak to this motion. So if you want to speak to this motion from the membership, please raise your hand in chat. Go ahead, Ren.
Hi. Well, I wanted to speak about the concerns I have about this motion. I expect the motion to pass, but this motion, I think, inhibits the likelihood that I will participate on committees. In large meetings, it's necessary that a formal process be followed, and there's not a lot of chatter. But our committees often are very small groups of people working to get things done. And they're people that know each other and have a certain intimacy and a familiarity with each other, like sitting around a kitchen table size meetings, sitting around the table up at Alice's. And it's like you're with a group of friends. It feels intimate. There is room for crosstalk. Not during the formal motion of something that takes place, like gets recorded in the meeting, in the minutes, but in the process that leads up to that motion, where there's brainstorming, there's discussion, there's jokes made, there's other points of view, there's sharings of perspective, impulse, off the cuff, candid remarks while you struggle to refine your thoughts. I handle myself differently in a setting like that than I do in a formal public setting. And I think I would be very aware of the surveillance of the camera and wouldn't feel free to speak off the cuff and have to measure my remarks carefully like I do out in the rest of the world where I, have always felt a little bit like I don't belong, a misfit, a hippie, an outcast, a freak, all the outlaw people that come to our community. I think it's going to inhibit their participation in committees. It doesn't really represent the flavor of what I think the country fair has traditionally been.
Thank you, Ren. Again, it's a last call for member input. Go ahead, Dean.
Yes, hi. Good to see everybody this evening. I have a concern about the first sentence in this motion, and that is that the board moves to allow committee meeting recordings to be seen by fair community. I don't think there is such a thing as a fair community. We haven't established, who's fair community. And it says that the staff is going to determine who is fair community. I think this is opening up a big can of worms. I don't mind the fact that our committee will be available to members of the fair family, whatever that means. I have an idea what it means, but your idea of what the fair family means might be different than mine. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. And I have no more people on the to speak from the membership, so we're going to go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion on this motion? Raise your hand in chat. John Steinhardt.
Yeah, I think this is a great motion. Since I've been on the board, I've had the opportunity to watch committee videos, and it's really nice. Last week, I had to miss the beginning of a meeting because I was in class and went through a cell phone dead zone on my way home from class and was able to go home and see the rest of the meeting, and that was really helpful. I think some people are worried about their behavior being on video, and some of the meeting videos I've watched have incredibly bad behavior on them. And if recording them and making them available limits that behavior, I think that would be a good thing. And also, I really like to see the brainstorming that happens in the meetings because that usually doesn't make it into the minutes. And it's really helpful for me to be able to see how things were arrived at, not just the conclusion. That's it.
Thank you. Before we go on, I meant to ask, is there a definitive answer to Mouseman's question about whether there's a mandate to record meetings? Kirsten?
I can take that, unless you, there is, all the meetings are supposed to be recorded. The only ones that aren't are some of the very small ones that are in people's houses where there isn't equipment there to record them. And so those are, probably like the poster committee and maybe some of the philanthropic committees that are smaller. But the other ones that are hybrid or Zoom or in person at Alice's or the office are all recorded.
Thank you.
And a couple of those other small ones are also confidential, so they wouldn't be recorded anyway.
Okay, so going on now to Sue.
I want to thank Amy and Ren for their comments. I agree with them. I serve on many committees, but the three that I spent the most time with are craft, food, and path planning. I've served on those committees for at least a decade. I find them to be very productive, very respectful, very, there are groups of people who really hold the best interests of FAIR at heart, and they work on ways to make FAIR better for all. There's a lot of brainstorming that goes on in the things that we create. And yeah, sometimes there's a joke, or sometimes somebody just throws out an idea that's way out of the field just to get some other interaction that's a little more outside of the box. There isn't name calling. We're not throwing chairs at each other. We're not calling other people names. But we do a lot of things amongst ourselves to make this better. My big concern is that this could stifle some people from expressing themselves as fully as they might. Somebody made a comment in regards to someone's expression and how that was just out there for everybody to see. Well, yes, it was, but there's another part to it. Was anybody in the room with that person when she made that expression? Could she have been laughing at her grandchildren who were there? We don't know. So these are the things that I worry about, that things could possibly be taken out of context, especially if some people have an axe to grind. And my experience in all my decades in FAIR is, yes, at various times, various people have axes to grind. I don't want to see that slow down or stifle committees. Another thing that bothers me about this motion is I don't know how things are going to be vetted. I don't know how we're going to determine who can and cannot see it. I would appreciate having some of this in the motion so I'd have a better sense of where it was headed. As it stands now, I cannot support it. I didn't support it the last time it came up and came up and came up. We have minutes, our meetings are open, people can always reach out to the committee, ask questions, but in general, I don't think it's a good idea, at least the way the motion's written now, to allow for the meetings to be seen outside of the time that they happened. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to Teresa now.
The only big concern I have left is a real clarity. I know we announce when we begin recording, but I would really like to make sure we also announce when things are over so that recording ends. As we make that a matter of practice, I'm not suggesting amending the motion, but I would just like to make sure we do that. And I want to also say that I really appreciate, I have a sadness about the days when we sat in rooms and talked to each other and miss that. Education has changed, but it's just not the world we live in. And I think transparency is wins the day. So I think it just we need to do it.
Thank you very much, Teresa. And we'll go to John Alexander through Arna.
Yeah, this is John's statement. With better vetting, more discussion, and more time, I would likely be in favor of this motion. I agree with transparency and many of the arguments made in favor of this motion. However, it has not been until tonight and a bit today that I have better learned about the objections. I also think this motion needs a bit of work. I really like how we have started publicly discussing new business items prior to them coming to us for vote as old business. This gives us a chance to discuss and work to clarify and improve motions. It may even favor reaching consensus around motions that carry with them varying perspectives and opinions. This also gives us a chance, I believe he means, to better respond and consider member input. I thought the way we did this around the amplified music was an exemplary first pass and resulted in something much better than a hasty vote. As for this motion, I may be convinced to support this, but not tonight. I do not believe we have had a chance to publicly discuss this motion. I am hoping we can discuss tonight and then delay the vote until the next meeting. This will give us time to listen, discuss, and then consider. This will also give us time to respond to and better consider member input. Lastly, this will also ensure that we, 1, bring a better vetted motion forward, and 2, avoid our process of amending motions last minute, right before we then have to make a hasty vote on a motion that has morphed from the original. I agree that the mechanism for access to the recordings can be developed by operations. However, I think some additional guidelines may need to be included in the motion. Such could include not sharing or posting the entire video or pieces out of context. Such guidelines would not keep any member from asking to receive a recording. I feel like this motion is out of sequence with some things we still need to discuss as a board and with our membership. I do not think it has been adequately informed by relevant perspectives. I suggest this be withdrawn until we have a broader set of discussions with our board and with our membership about moving in a more positive way with regards to developing a forward-looking vision and set of policies regarding OCF and DEIJ. That's his statement.
Okay, and I want to remind everyone that John is attending the meeting, even though he's not able to speak here. And Arna, you're next.
We may lose John for a minute, for a little bit. He's landing, he says. So I think I may lose him for a bit here. Okay, and I won't tell you everything he's saying about that. I shouldn't say that in the meeting. So, okay, so I was one of the sponsors of this motion. I really believe in this motion because I believe in transparency for our organization. And I think this motion gives us much more transparency in our committee meetings. I think committees are where a lot of our work is done. And I want our membership to really be able to see what's going on there. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of our meetings, I guess I don't understand why people don't want the recordings to go up. And I'm not quite sure why it would inhibit people's comments at meetings. I mean, I understood, but, I miss the old days where we all met in people's rooms too, and it was very informal, but those days are gone, unfortunately. And I go to a lot of committee meetings, and as most of you know, I'm fairly opinionated and outspoken. And I also, I'm very happy to argue issues, like this is, discussing issues is what we do. And discussing issues at committee meetings is what we do. That's the whole point of it, to discuss issues and come up with policy recommendations for the board. And you can't discuss issues with having different points of view at a committee meeting. And that's what happens. And you can make jokes at committee meetings. I do it. I laugh, the key is to treat everybody with respect and kindness. And, then it all works as far as I'm concerned. And as Michael Connolly said, that, if it makes you stop and think about what you're going to say, there's nothing wrong with that. I believe this is important for our organization. I think that we want to get more membership involvement in our committees. I've heard the board talk about that before. And I think this is one way to do it. I think that our committee meetings most committee meetings are held in the early evenings. That can be a really tough time for people to get to who aren't on the committees, but want to know what's going on in them. People with small children or just families, can have dinner time. It's a really tough time. I mean, think of all of us on committees who scramble to eat our food so that we can get to a committee meeting, that can be hard for families. It would be really nice to let people who aren't on the committees see these meetings when they're able to see them, to watch the recording when they can. And then they can see what's going on. Then they can kind of see if maybe they want to join a committee. We need some new members. Most committees that I've talked to need new members. And this would be a way for our membership to see, what the committees are doing, and if they'd like to join it. When I talked about fair community in that, I didn't want to just say fair membership, because we only have 5,000 members, but we have a lot more wristbands that go out. There's a lot more people involved in the fair than just have signed up as members. I was thinking more of wristbanded people, so we're not limiting it to just members, and that you have to be a member to see the meetings, because I think that we have people in committees that aren't members, that just have wristbands. So I don't want to limit that way and just say they're members. I'm happy to let operations work on a way to do this. If they come up with a plan that we think is terrible, when they announce it to us at our next meeting, we can say, nope, don't want it. That's not workable for us. There is a process for committees to close their meetings for when they need to do that. And some committees do need to do that, such as food, craft, I'm not sure what other committees, but there is a process for that. This does not, and closed recordings will never be released. So I think that, I guess I just don't understand the fear. I feel like there's fear around this, and I don't quite understand it. As I said before, there was a lot of fear and angst about when the board meetings were recorded at first, but we've managed to get through that. We did have that one incident with the facial expression. I do want to, I feel that I didn't handle that as a moderator for one of the Facebook pages. I didn't handle that well, and I apologize for that. But that was one incident in years of board meetings, so I'm not worried about this. And I really think it's important for our organization to have transparency. We talk about it. This is our opportunity to act on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Paxton.
Well, I would personally like to have the stuff accessible to the membership. And if people want to sign up and become a member, I think that's a good idea. We use it as a recruiting tool. That's one of my personal beliefs. I actually appreciate some of this motion, the changes in some of this, because I've always been concerned about closed meetings and stuff that shouldn't get out. And this eliminates says no closed meetings will be made public, and I find that good. I also like that committees that have had closed meetings have the opportunity to not release past meetings if they need to. I think that's a good addition to this. Because there are many times committees have need of a closed meeting. Path planning has done it for land use issues and real estate. Same thing with LOM. So there's needs for other committees to have reason to close meetings. I particularly like the way Craft Committee and Food Committee do theirs, because I've been going to some of their meetings, and they hold their closed session, which are mostly around, booth choices and personnel issues and things like that, at the end of the meeting. So they close down the regular meeting and go into a closed session. I log off and go home. I think it would be wise to stop the recording, make that public meeting, and then a second recording for the closed sessions, because I think you may need to record those also. So I think that actually can easily be done in committee meetings if you look at, how that process happens. So, and it probably will limit what I have say in committees at times, but that's okay. And if it's misused, it's a violation of the guidelines. We really need to reinforce that part of the system, particularly dealing with internet and stuff that gets out of hand online. So I don't know how we could do that in the long run, but at the moment, I think this motion is workable. Thank you.
Thank you, Paxton. Lisa Parker.
Hello. I'd like to read a little bit from an email that I sent to my fellow board members over 2 weeks ago. While I understand the potential benefits of making these recordings available for the membership to view, including increased transparency and improved accessibility, I do have a few concerns to share. One, confidentiality. Even open committee meetings may involve discussions of sensitive information, such as financial data, strategic plans, or personnel matters. And posting recordings online could risk exposing this information to unintended audiences, potentially the organization's operations or the privacy of individuals involved. Two, misrepresentation. Without proper context or clarification, recordings of meetings can be misinterpreted or taken out of context, leading to misunderstandings or misrepresentations of the organization's decisions or intentions. Decreased candor. Participants may be less candid or open during discussions if they know that recordings will be posted online, which could hinder the effectiveness of the decision-making process or stifle creative or innovative ideas. Decreased participation. Knowing that meetings will be recorded and made public may deter some individuals from participating or contributing actively during discussions, even if they're not doing or saying anything wrong, just simply because they have concerns about their privacy or the potential repercussions of their remarks being recorded and taken out of context. And then as far as the resources, recording and posting meetings online, they do require technical infrastructure and resources. And at this time, we do not have any mechanism for ensuring that the recordings will only be accessed by those either who are members or who have a wristband. And even if we did, there would be nothing that would stop anyone from downloading those recordings. And even if we were able to set up an anti-downloading situation, there would be nothing stopping them from recording it with their phone and exposing potentially sensitive information to unintended audiences. As far as, closed meeting versus all of our committee meetings are posted on the .NET site and open to the membership, with the exception of a few smaller groups and, when committees do have closed sessions. But as I said, even during those open meetings, there is proprietary information discussed. That's what they do. Secondly, Again, we really, at this point, we don't know what the process is going to be. As far as I know, we don't have the capacity to limit the audience. And then third, I'd like to just say that the legal opinion that we received only spoke to the fact that it is legal for the organization to post these meetings online because the organization owns them. But there was no discussion of the potential risks and unintended consequences. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And we're going to go to Sandra now.
Yeah, thank you all for the discussion on all of this. I had a few things I wanted to say. I don't think you can talk about being transparent and not be transparent, number one. I think that's one really overwhelmingly good reason for being able to allow members and fair community to access these meetings. And they're already being recorded. If there was some ill intent somewhere, I just don't think we can be that paranoid, that there's other ways for people to access the information because the meetings are open. And, if there are misrepresentations or lack of context for, some of the comments that go on, this is a great avenue for clearing the context and misrepresentations up. People can see the actual recording and find out what actually happened if that's a real concern for people. And if it is misused, it is a code of conduct violation. And there are avenues to dealing with people who would try to misuse or mislead people with what actually happened. And I think that we should follow up with those kinds of things and make it known that it's not allowable to not be forthright about the use of the information that you have access to like that. And we already have that. We have these processes in place that can take that kind of thing on. And there's often differences of opinion on policy. It's how the world works. But that doesn't mean that we can't pass good policy and that we can't continue to tweak it if it needs improvement in some way or another. So this is a long time coming, and I really do hope that that you'll vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. We'll go to Kevin now.
Thanks, everybody, for the awesome conversation. I think I support this motion. I think it's a good thing. I think Sandra's right. We speak about transparency. It should be across the board to where everyone knows that. I think about future generations that are coming behind us and being here and serving and really thinking about leaving it better behind me. And, I think about if someone asks me about committees and how do they work, what does that look like? Well, we're a transparent organization and we believe in, we record all of our meetings so that information is available for our members and staff and anyone interested in joining. And so I think it's a good thing for sure. And yes, if anyone knows me, I like to have a good time. And when when we're here, we're working. And so for me, it helps me focus because I can definitely be distracting and be distracted. So I think it's a good thing. We're here to do the work, all of us, in these committees and have a good time doing it. But I think it helps me really focus. I think it's a good thing. I think in the end, it will shake out that we can expand everything as well as be clear in our statement of being a transparent organization. There's not a lot of organizations that do this kind of thing. And so we're a weird, wacky kind of bunch, and that's what's great about us. And so we want to invite more. So I believe in this. I think it's going to be okay. And I appreciate everybody's discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. And last call for board input. Is there any more board discussion on this motion? Last call for board discussion. Seeing none, we're going to go to a voice vote.
AJ's got a hand up, Steve.
AJ has his
AJ.
hand up.
Oh, all right. Under the wire. Go ahead, AJ.
Hello, in hopes of not repeating, I do support this motion. I, in speaking for myself, knowing that my every word, during every board meeting is recorded and that the whole membership has access to every board meeting that is recorded, to watch anytime, they want to. I think if there was any risk to the organization, our board meetings would be that, and I don't see any risk to that. Our meetings are posted. There hasn't been any legal things, anything, any of the fears that I hear have not been come to life in our board meetings being posted. I challenge those who feel like they cannot be candid in committee meetings, or say things, or may make jokes that are inappropriate, whatever those things are. I think I challenge everyone in the spirit of working better together, in the spirit of making sure that our words do not stab each other, and that our jokes do not create an adversarial relationship amongst each other, that we watch our words, that we're careful of our tones, and that we realize that there is a much broader community that has expectations of us, not just as board members, but as committee members, and we work for them. And it's important that they have access. I believe in true transparency and access, and this is the way to do that. So I thank you for all the conversation tonight. I think we have, what we heard from our attorneys is that everybody is aware that you are being recorded. When that recording comes on, everybody pushes that "got it" button. So, everybody is aware that they are being recorded when they come to those open meetings. And so that is our legal, we are obtaining those recordings legally in that way. And you have the right as an individual to participate or not participate. We hope that you would. It helps our processes and our policy. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. And so some other people are coming in now that the wire's up. John Alexander.
He hasn't sent me what he wants to say yet. So could you please move on and come back to me?
Sue.
I'm really saddened that when people voice concerns, so many other people can refer to them as fear. They are concerns. There is a difference. Words and language matter.
Thank you, Sue. Lisa Parker.
Yes, I just want to reiterate that I appreciate the potential benefits of making committee recordings available to the membership. And one of the unique things about the OCF as an organization is the level of involvement and participation in decision-making that our members expect to have. And that is wonderful. I really love that about us. We should endeavor to take measures to increase our transparency and improve accessibility for those who would like to participate to the extent feasible. However, I think it is equally important as directors, fiduciaries of the organization, to consider the unintended consequences and make our decisions from as informed of a place as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Do you have something from John A?
Yes, John would like to amend the motion because I'm watching I'm on Zoom on my laptop, but I'm working with him on my phone. I can't just copy it and paste it easily. Perhaps, Kirsten, you usually do this for us. Where are you?
I'm here.
If you could put the motion up, I could tell you where to type in his changes.
Okay, give me a.
I think that might be the easiest way to do this at this point. There's no way to do this by a friendly amendment because we have 5 sponsors and Tom Horn's not even here at the meeting, so I don't see how we could do this. We'll have to have a vote.
Let's just, yeah, do it as a motion and a vote.
Yeah.
We can,
So
go ahead.
I'm just waiting for Kirsten to be ready for it.
Okay, I'm
So,
sharing my
Kirsten.
screen.
So Kirsten, in the first sentence, there it says the board moves to allow all open committee meeting recordings to be, and here he wants to add, requested for viewing by OCF members. And then that would be and then you would be taking out seen by the fair community. Okay, and then as we read down, after it talks about the mechanism for access to the recordings will be developed by operations and explained to the board and the fair community next month, comma, add with the following guidelines. This is an OCF privilege, and members who request access to recording agree not to share with others.
Okay, say that again. So with
This
the
is
following guidelines, this is an
With the following
OCF
guidelines. This is an OCF privilege, and members who request access to recording agree not to share with others. Okay, those are his.
Okay, so thank you, Arna. The first question is there a second to this amendment? I can't see the chat. Is anyone, I'm not hearing anyone. Is there a second to this amendment? It'll die without a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, so moved by John Alexander and seconded by Paxton. So you have a record, Kirsten, of all the members who've spoken and how much time they've used up?
Yes.
Okay, so is there any member input on this amendment? I can get the chat back up if you want to share the motion again so people can see it. Coyote. Coyote?
It's sorry. In the earlier discussion, Arna mentioned there was a distinction between members, of which there are about 5,000, and wristbanded people. The way this amendment is written, it would only allow the 5,000 registered members to be able to have access. Am I right?
Yes.
That's the way the words are.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
I think everybody should have access, not just those 5,000 members. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Dyerkoff.
Stephen, you're muted.
Stephen Dyerkoff?
Is that better?
Oh,
yes.
Sorry about that. I was say, I'm not
here to speak to the merits of this motion other than to say I don't mind anything I say in a committee meeting being shared with the membership, and I believe in transparency. But I just kind of want to reiterate something that Lisa said, and there's been several questions about this. Once a committee recording is made available to one member, even if the member agrees not to share it, you have to assume that it's shared with the entire world at that point. It's impossible to restrict this once it gets out. So I just hope that directors will consider that when they're voting on this motion. If you share it with two people, it's very difficult to find out which one shared it. So, but again, I believe generally in transparency. Just be aware. It's you don't share it with anybody, or you share it with the whole world is effectively how it is. Thanks.
Thank you. Heather Kent.
And I think given the reality of what Stephen Dyerkoff just said, there's absolutely no reason to change the motion from the way you had it. And I would urge you to not accept this amendment.
Thank you. And Dave W.
Hi. Yeah, just real quick. After all the discussion, it seems like there's more support for this motion, for the original motion, unchanged. And there are some people that are speaking out against it. And I guess since the board has opportunity to discuss this, I'm just curious, for those opposed to this original motion, is there anything that could change about this that would, inspire your support for it? Because as a member, it just feels like, well, if you're just ideologically opposed to it, then maybe you're not actually for transparency, and that's good to know, and where you stand. And but if you're willing to compromise and you have ideas about what could change about it, kind of like John has here, then let's hear it. But yeah, I'm for transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And Elaine.
I would encourage the board to please not accept this amendment. As I understand, John's probably trying to facilitate some common ground or address some of the things that have been brought up, but it just convolutes and makes more problems. The amendment does, in the sense, like somebody pointed out, it's only going to be for certain members. Again, the idea of transparency and about us as a growing community with as many members as we have to be able to stand face value and be who we are and speak our truths in and out of meetings, recorded or not recorded. And I would encourage the board to pass this motion as it was originally stated. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Last call again for member input. Dean Middleton.
Yes, I support the changes that have been put forward. If for no other reason that they point out what my original point was, that we don't have a common understanding of who the fair community is, and anything that's going to help defeat this, I support. Thank you.
Thank you. Does Coyote have any time left, Kirsten? Go ahead, Coyote.
Yeah, I want to read a quote here from Anne Frank. "It's a wonder I haven't abandoned all my ideals. They seem so absurd and impractical. Yet I cling to them because I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are truly good at heart." Thank you.
Thank you, Coyote. And John Govsky.
Thanks. I just wanted to point out that if you talk about restricting something only to a membership, you have to create and maintain some kind of online login and password system for members. Sounds like a logistical nightmare. I just want to point out, how do you implement that policy without causing an awful lot more staff or volunteer time? That's all. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Seeing no more member input on the amendment, we will go back to board discussion on the amendment. Is there any board discussion on the amendment? AJ.
I want to make a distinction very clear that, and I hope Stephen Dyerkoff can clarify this. The only difference between members and folks with wristbands are that members vote. In order to become a member, you have to vote a certain amount of times and have a certain amount of wristbands in a row. There's really no huge distinction between membership and those who get wristbands every year, other than that small difference. And we're talking about at least 7,000 to 10,000 people who engage every year with the organization with wristbands that are volunteers for us that wouldn't have access to these recordings if we just said that it was only for the 5,000 members themselves. So you're eliminating a large section of our fair community by doing that. And that's why I can't support this amended motion.
Okay. Stephen Dyerkoff, can you concisely just clarify the distinction here for members, what it is to be a member? We're not hearing you.
I'm sorry about that. My microphone went off again. The difference between members and other fair attendees, members are wristbanded people who register to vote and actively vote. They have to vote in at least one of the last 3 elections, and they have to attend one of the last 3 fairs to remain a member. But that's the only distinction between them and other people with the wristband. Thanks.
Okay, to clarify, they fill out a form though. If you could do all of those things, and if you don't fill out the form, you're not a member in terms
Correct. They have to apply for membership.
Okay. Thank you. And Arna. And I will remind folks, we got about 15 minutes left without extending.
Okay, I'll be quick. I can't support the amendment because I don't want to limit this motion to members. That's why it was said fair community, not fair members. I think it's too limiting. I also have a hand up for John, and I think I may be next on that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so this is from John. John wants to say that he agrees with Dave Wagenheim, and he prefers to not call the vote if there's room for improvement. Let us craft a better motion that accounts for the input we got. Can we move to take it back to the table? It needs work. So that was John's comment.
Okay. Thank you. Sandra.
Yeah, thank you. I also don't support just having it limited to members. There's a lot of people who spend many volunteer hours at the fair in one way or another, even though they may not vote in the elections. And I don't like having them. I don't think that's, that just really bothers me to try to eliminate access for those people that are really important parts of the organization. I definitely think it should remain a fair community. Thank you.
Thank you. And so you don't need to call the question, just raise your hand and then don't say anything but call the question. So you're not.
Call the question.
Is there a second to call the question?
Second.
Second. So moved by John Steinhardt and seconded by Arna. And we're going to do a voice vote on calling the question. It requires 2/3. Sandra, are you? So this is a vote. A vote of yes is a vote to end discussion. A vote of no.
End discussion on the amendment.
On the amendment.
Okay.
Yes, on the amendment. A vote of yes is to end discussion on the amendment, and a vote of no is to continue discussing the amendment. Sandra,
Yeah, so I'm voting yes.
George,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
Lisa,
No, because I had my hand up and this will just
no,
eliminate.
just no, please. It's a non-debatable motion. John Steinhardt,
Yes.
Sue,
No.
Thomas is absent. John Alexander votes.
I don't have his vote yet.
Okay, John, if you can, please send in your vote. Otherwise, it'll be abstain. Teresa,
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Okay, we still needed 8. Do we have a vote from John?
Not yet.
Okay,
We have 8 votes, so you could just put.
yeah. So we're going to move on. We're going to
He
move
says
on.
yes. He says yes
to
anyway.
ending
so-
debate. Okay, so we have 8 votes to end debate. So we're proceeding immediately to a vote on the amendment.
You have 9 votes. I
Correct.
counted
We have
9.
9 votes now with John
There you go.
voting. So the next vote, tell John to be on the ball to, get ready to vote again. The next vote is on the amendment itself. So a vote of yes is to adopt the changed language, and a vote of no is to retain the original language. Kevin,
No.
no on the amendment? Arna,
No.
Teresa,
No.
let me know when you have a vote from John Alexander. And Sue,
Abstain.
and John Steinhardt,
No on the amendment.
Lisa Parker,
No.
and AJ,
No.
and Paxton,
No.
and George,
No.
and Sandra.
No,
Did we get a vote from John Alexander on the amendment?
He says no.
He says no. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's unanimous, save Sue abstaining. It's unanimous that the amendment fails. We're back to discussing the original motion. And I see John Steinhardt with the hand.
No, my hand is still up.
Who's it? Okay, well, are you? So that was to the amendment. Do you want to speak now to the motion?
Yes.
So in the future, if we end a discussion which has got a stack, we should be moving to a new stack. But if you want to speak, Lisa, please do. We're on the original motion now.
Thank you. So somebody asked what it would take for me, as one of the folks who are, speaking against this motion, what it would take for me to support something. And I would say that it would take an honest, thoughtful consideration of all of the potential unintended consequences of passing this policy. I feel that this is being pushed through under the banner of transparency without adequate thought and consideration.
Thank you, Lisa. John Steinhardt.
Call the question on the motion.
Okay.
Oh.
Is there a second to call the question? Teresa, you're seconding?
Yes.
Okay, so the question is being called on the main motion by John Steinhardt, seconded by Teresa. We're going to go to a voice vote. Sandra, a vote of yes is to end discussion and vote on the main motion.
yes,
George,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
Lisa Parker,
Abstain.
John Steinhardt,
Yes.
Sue,
No.
Do you have a vote from John Alexander?
I think he would vote no. He hasn't quite done that. He's a no.
Okay, you got Teresa,
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Okay, so I show 2 noes and 1 abstain, and so the motion passes with John Alexander voting no, Sue voting no, and Lisa Parker abstaining, correct? All right, so with that, that motion passes, and we will move on in the agenda to new business.
No, we have to vote on the.
We have to vote on the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I called the question, but didn't vote on the motion. So now we're back to the main motion. And my fault. And let's do a vote. Sandra,
I'm a yes.
George,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
Lisa Parker,
No.
and John Steinhardt.
Yes.
Sue,
No.
and John Alexander.
I haven't got it yet.
Okay, Teresa,
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and do we have something from John Alexander yet?
No, no, I don't have something from him yet.
What's that?
I don't have his vote yet.
Okay. Well, we have the motion passes with Lisa Parker voting no and Sue voting no and John Alexander's vote yet to be recorded. Fair enough?
He's a no. So John Alexander votes no.
So there's 3 no's and the motion passes. Correct? Everybody good? All right, moving on to new business. And we have 4 minutes left in our normal amount of meeting time. The next meeting for new business this month and next meeting it will be old business, are approval of the 2024 logo items from Sue Theolis and Arna Shaw. Fair Community Support Policy, sponsored by Teresa Vaughn, Arna Shaw, Sandra Bauer, AJ Jackson, George Braddock, Kevin Levy, and John Steinhardt. Amend the bylaws. President and Vice President must be duly elected board directors, sponsored by Arna Shaw and Sandra Bauer. Dissolve the Community Center Committee, John Steinhardt and Sandra Bauer. Dissolve the Vision Action Committee, John Steinhardt and Sandra Bauer. Create an Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Task Force, John Steinhardt and Sandra Bauer as sponsors. So those are the new business for next meeting. I don't think we have time to discuss them tonight. We have 1 minute for meeting evaluation. Is there anybody who really wants to say something for meeting evaluation?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Who you're talking to?
To Arna, please be brief.
I just want to say I was really appreciative of all the member input tonight. I mean, we had more member input tonight than we've had in many, many months. And I was really happy to see that engagement from the membership. So that was really pleasing for me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, members.
John Pincus, please be brief. We're down to just a couple minutes.
Yeah, I wanted to say exactly what Arna said to people on both sides of the issue. I thought everybody was respectful and articulate. Thank you.
Mouseman.
Hello, can you hear me? All right,
Yeah,
there-
go ahead.
There we go. Great meeting. Great meeting.
Thank you. John Alexander. That's you, Arna. You're muted.
You muted on.
So far, all I've gotten here is a thank you to me. I'm not sure if he has more. So why don't you go to anybody else on the list and come
Yeah.
back to me?
Kevin.
I want to say the same thing. Thank you to everybody for just an awesome discussion on this, and respect from both sides, and really fun with the member input, and I really appreciate everybody. And thank you, Arna, for bringing John in some kind of form or fashion.
Do you have anything from John Alexander, Erna?
No, that's it.
Okay, we're in a closed meeting evaluation now and go to announcement. The board special session is March 18th at 7 p.m. for bylaws and elections. March 18th at 7 p.m. for bylaws and elections. And then the next regular board meeting is Monday, April 1st, 2024. How convenient. But we are serious about that. It really is April 1st. And now the president's piece.
For tonight's piece, I want to give a huge thank you to all the volunteers that showed up here tonight to have their voices be heard. I want to give special thanks to our operations team as they get ready and get prepared for preparing our land for our next event. It's a lot of work out there. I want to remind everybody to, when you can participate, please participate. Call the office, figure out how you can help. And lastly, I will say I am proud of us tonight. We often have hard conversations in our meetings lately, and they don't always go well. This is a night tonight that we had a disagreement and things went well. People were respectful, and I am proud to be a part of this organization that works in this way. So thank you. And good night.
Thank you very much. And with that, we will adjourn the March 4th, 2024 Oregon Country Fair Board meeting. Thank you everyone for attending.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Everybody.
Good job,
work, folks.
everyone. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. I like
Night
that
all.
golden